Okay guys, good morning. This is Mrs. Sheppard back for another Boxcar Children beginning lesson. Yesterday when I was recording chapter 3, I had a little glitch. You know, that happens sometimes. My iPad stopped recording right in the middle of chapter 3. So instead of redoing the whole chapter, we're just going to blast off in the middle of the chapter, kind of like we do at school when we have a fire drill or we have an interruption or something happens and we have to stop and just pick back up where we left off. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to pick back up where we left off yesterday. I'm adding a new little slide to let you know we are still featured today, the Boxcar Children beginning chapter 3. This is part 2, so you need to make sure you watch part 1 before you move to part 2. Broadcast date, this means when you'll be watching, April 1st, 2020, featuring Mrs. Sheppard, also known as Mrs. Shep, and the smart board in room 137. My technical director, many of you have asked me why Miss Thompson's not in my videos. She is. She's doing all the behind the scenes work for me. She's the person when you watch a TV show or you watch a movie, this is the person that you don't see, but they actually wind up doing most of the work sometimes. So my technical director, Miss Thompson, also known as Miss Tom Tom and Miss Flower Power. Uploading manager, Miss Thompson, she's also uploading all of my videos so that you're able to pull up at home and watch. My YouTube link manager is also Miss Thompson, and my audience, that's my group that should be watching, is my first grade at Walton Academy. Lights, camera, action. We're going to pick up today right in the middle of chapter 3 where we left off yesterday. So, and I do need to get my granny glasses. They were very helpful yesterday. And I'm going to pick right up in the middle of chapter 3. And Mama and Sarah, Mrs. Clark, and the kids were in the kitchen. They were making buns. They were frosting the buns. And Joe had just grabbed one. No, sorry, I hadn't read that part yet. Let me revisit that chunk. Okay, here we go. I'm going to reread a little clip that I already read to you. And sorry, Miss Shep is still asleep this morning. I forgot to turn my camera so you can look at me in my rocking chair. That was another little glitch, but I promise you there are going to be many more of those as I'm getting used to those YouTube links. Little clip from yesterday. Sugar, 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 sang Benny. Joe under the table was a smart dog. He knew something would be dropped, frosting or bun. He waited patiently, moving closer to Benny, who was more likely to drop anything. And sure enough, Benny couldn't wait any longer and took a bite out of a bun. Now, you know, if your mom was in the kitchen making buns, you would be very tempted to want to take a bite. And that's just what Benny did. Benny, Jessie said loudly, not for eating, for the market. Remember, Mama's making the buns to sell at the market. Surprised, Benny dropped the whole bun minus one bite. Joe leaped forward, scooped it up, and ran out into the parlor. Benny climbed down from the chair and ran after Joe. You know, if you're in the kitchen and you drop something that has to do with food and there's a dog in the kitchen, the dog's going to try to grab it, and usually when they grab it, they typically run off to another room. Benny, that's Joe's bun now. Come and frost another, called Mama. Benny frowned. That was Benny's bun, he said, making them laugh. Benny always says something funny that makes everybody laugh. That's why we gave him the character trait. We said he was humorous. Let's stop for a bit and have some buns and tea, said Mama. We've been working a long time. I'll cut them into small pieces, Kate, said Sarah. You need 6 dozen for market, remember? Now a little math. We know in 1 dozen, that gives us a total of 12. 6 dozen would be 12 times 6, or 6 times 12, which would be a total of 72. Mama sat down and brushed her hair back out of her eyes. I do remember, Mama said wearily. Now when Mama said that wearily, it lets me know she's feeling a little bit tired. Sarah poured tea, and Violet brought Mama the cup. A little hot water spilled on Violet's hand, and she yelped, "Ouch!" dropping the teacup on the floor. It broke in several pieces. "Oh," said Mama, her hands to her mouth. Violet began to cry. "Come, Violet," said Mama, opening up her arms. "It's only a teacup." "But it's your favorite," said Jessie. Mama took Violet up into her lap. I wanted you to be able to see that illustration that we have that shows Violet breaking Mama's favorite teacup. "It's only a teacup," she said to Violet. "It's just a thing. Don't forget that, Violet." "But things are important," said Violet. "Not as important as family and friends," said Mama. "I can always get another teacup. I can't get another you." Now that's a beautiful lesson in life stated in the text. Violet dropped and broke Mama's favorite teacup. Violet cried. She was very upset. Mama said, things are not as important as family and friends. She said, I can get another teacup, but I can't get another Violet. That's a beautiful lesson in life, theme, moral, central message that we've talked about a lot this year. Sarah picked up the pieces of the flowered cup. "What your mama says is true," said Sarah. "We had to leave many things we loved behind when we left." Now Sarah means when we left our home, because they were going to New Hampshire because they lost their home. They couldn't take everything with them, so they had to leave many things behind. "You brought Joe," said Violet, wiping tears away. "We did," said Sarah. Joe was more important than teacups. Another lesson in life. "Maybe I can fix the cup," said Violet, getting off Mama's lap. She wrapped the cup pieces in a handkerchief. "If I had to leave home, I'd take my sewing bag," said Violet. "I have my own scissors and thread and glue and sewing needles." Mama smiled. So Violet says, if I left home and couldn't take everything, I would take my scissors, my thread, my glue, my sewing needles. She said I would take my sewing bag. That lets us know as readers that her sewing bag is very important to her. Violet is our mender and fixer. Now, character trait to describe Violet, we said Jessie was organized, Benny is humorous. Violet character trait would be a mender and a fixer. That's a person who fixes things. "I'd take Joe," said Benny. "But Joe doesn't belong to you, Benny," said Henry. Benny thought. "Then I'd take Bear," he said. He held his worn stuffed bear under his arm. Benny said, if I had to leave home and I couldn't take everything, I would take my bear with me. That's something we know is very important to Benny. I took my doll, said Meg. The doll looked like Meg, the two of them with black curly hair and a box of crayons. Meg said, when I left home, I took my doll. The doll was something that was very important to Meg. I took 3 books, said William. Only 3, he added in a soft, sad voice. I read them over and over. William said, when I left home, I couldn't take everything. The thing William took that was important to him was 3 books. We know William loves to read. What would you take if you had to leave? Jessie asked her mama. I'd take you, said Mama. All of you. You are the most important, the best family of all. So Mama says, I wouldn't take things. I would take you. I would take my family. Lesson in life, Mama already said family was more important than things. She said, so if I had to leave home, what would be most important for me to take would be my family. Jessie and Henry smiled at each other. They didn't know if they were the best family of all, but they liked Mama saying so. Bear wants a bun, said Benny. They laughed for now. Character trait, Benny made everybody laugh. We said he is humorous. They had no way of knowing it, but they were all to remember this talk later. They would remember Mama's words, the best family of all, much later. Now, when Patricia McLaughlin says they had no way of knowing it, but they would remember this talk later, they would remember Mama's words. That's a beautiful example of foreshadowing, letting us know later in the story they're going to be thinking back to those special words Mama said when she said she had the best family of all. Beautiful example of foreshadowing, close to the end of chapter 3. That little symbol means there's going to be a gap, a time lapse, maybe a change in setting. And that night, while everyone was sleeping, Violet carefully glued the pieces of her Mama's rose teacup together. She set it on the windowsill in the kitchen. If she didn't look too closely, it almost looked the way it always had. Almost. Character trait to describe Violet, she broke Mama's teacup. She fixed it. It already stated earlier in the chapter that Violet was a mender, a fixer. She just proved that character trait because she fixed the teacup that she accidentally broke. Character trait, Violet is a fixer. And that takes us to the end of chapter 3. And I'm going to turn my iPad back. And now we are going to summarize chapter 3. Remember, when we summarize as readers, we tell what the chapter was mostly about. We already did our T3 title, The Best Family of All. We did our P3 before we started reading. We made our prediction. And now we're going to summarize chapter 3. When we summarize, we tell what the chapter was mostly about. Now, this is a time that your eyes should be looking at the smartboard, and you should be reading with me as I read. That's one of your jobs as you're watching my video clips. One of your jobs is when I'm reading from the smartboard, you're reading with me. That's when we work on our reading skills and our fluency. summary for chapter 3. And let me circle my S3. If we were here at school in reading groups, this is one of those things you would write in your notebooks. Here we go, reading with me. The mamas and the kids baked and frosted buns for the market. The Clarks talked about having to leave their home and their things. Violet accidentally broke Mama's favorite teacup. Mama explained that people are more important than things. Mama explained that she had the best family of all. We already talked about that was a beautiful lesson in life, that people, little glitch, that people are more important than things. And Mama said, she told the kids she had the best family of all. Now we're going to do our AT3. Our AT3 would be another good title for chapter 3. Remember, another good title, we think about the title Patricia McLaughlin gave chapter 3, The Best Family of All. The title should be linked to the main idea or what the chapter was mostly. Oh, Miss Sheppard can't write today. Sorry, guys. You know I don't wake up until about 10 o'clock. And it's almost 10 o'clock, so I should already be awake. The Best Family of All, main idea. The title should be linked to the main idea. Another good title for chapter 3 is The Broken Teacup. Now, we finished up chapter 3. This is a good stopping point for today. You don't have any jobs. You don't need to write anything in your notebook that I wrote up on the smart board. Your job today was to be a good listener and to be a good participator while I was reading to you on the carpet. Remember, chapter 3 is broken up into those 2 chunks. So you're going to need to read chunk 1 first and then chunk 2 next. I can promise you, as we continue with you learning at home and Mrs. Sheppard teaching from an empty classroom at Walton Academy, there are going to be some of these glitches where my iPad's not going to work the way it should, where Miss Sheppard is going to make some mistakes as she's going through her lessons. You'll just have to be patient, and I hope maybe the iPad glitches will get a little bit better, but make sure that you watch part 1 before we roll into part 2. Now, this will be a good stopping point and also a good time for you to take a little break before you get back to some of your other lessons. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will be coming back with another lesson for you very soon.